Hey everybody, Ben Nelson here, and it is time for another market update. So what is going on here in the Portland metro area and in the national real estate market as a whole? Let's jump in and take a look. So looking at January numbers here, I'm a little bit behind on my market update videos, so there will be another one coming out shortly after this one drops with the February numbers. But with January numbers, it was less than 1 month of inventory on the market in the Portland metro area, 0.8 months of inventory, which is lower than we were last year, which was right at 1 month of inventory starting out in 2021. So we are starting out the year even further behind the ball from what we were in 2021 with very, very low inventory, only about 1,400 active residential real estate listings on the market. So very, very low inventory. And what does that mean? Well, we've already started to see it just even mid-February, which is a little bit early for the spring buying season, the spring rush, jumped right into the high demand, low inventory market after a little bit of a slowdown during the winter months. Right back into it with multiple offers and bidding wars and people putting in appraisal gaps and bidding well above list price and waiving all sorts of things and all that just to get the privilege to buy someone's house. So that's kind of unfortunately the market that we've been in for quite some time. Again, it was a little bit better during the winter months for the buyers. But we are headed into another very hot spring and summer market, and it's going to be very rough as a buyer, unfortunately. So if you're a buyer out there, be very prepared be prepared in the sense of having everything lined up and having your ducks in a row and being pre-approved and all of that stuff and knowing what you're looking for, but be very prepared for a longer road. You probably won't get the first house. You probably won't get the second house. You may not get the third or fourth or fifth house. So you have to be very patient and you have to be willing to compete, and you just have to know that going into it. So it can be very disappointing, obviously, when you write your offer and you don't get picked. And dealing with that with some clients, several clients right now. And it's a bummer and it gets everybody down, but you just got to keep your head down. You got to know that going into it. It makes it a little bit easier anyway when you kind of know that that's what's going to happen going into your buying process. Nationally, as I said in the last video, we're about 6 months of inventory. I didn't think I noted in the last video. It actually doesn't say in the chart, but I believe that is including new and proposed construction. It does not note that in there, but the National Association of Realtors numbers for existing inventory, existing home inventory, which will be resale, is only 1.6 months. So with those two numbers together, I would assume that larger number includes new and proposed construction. Interestingly, the 0.8 months of inventory for Portland does include new and proposed construction. So even including all of that in there, we're still very low. So if you include just resale, existing home resale, it's much, much lower than that even. Looking at price trends, this is a super interesting number. Again, this is a national number. So at the end of the second quarter of 2020, the median home price in the country was about $322,000. Fast forward to the end of the fourth quarter 2021, that median home price jumped all the way up to about $408,000. That's over a 25% increase in median home price over the course of about 18 months. That's a huge amount of appreciation, a huge increase in prices. And there's a lot of factors to that. Obviously, we talked about supply, we talked about interest rates being so low and putting upward pressure on pricing. We talked about the rising costs of goods and labor and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of factors in there. So where does it go from here? What does that mean? So lots of things to be looking at. If you just kind of go down the list, number one, I talked about Zillow last time. They predicted a 16% annual increase nationally. They predicted a 22% spike in home prices in the spring market. Lumber prices are at the highest level ever prior to spring building season. Mortgage rates have been climbing and are expected to continue upwards. Supply chain issues continue to be a problem. Inflation is very real and is continuing to cause problems. And there are now international concerns that are potentially affecting our market here as well. So lots and lots of factors, lots of things going on. So what does that mean? What do you do? Do you buy? Do you sell? What's the right thing to do? So as a homeowner, if you're looking for something to live in, that you want to be in and stay in and be a resident, I'm advising people to think long term. Obviously, nobody has a crystal ball exactly what's going to happen. But if you're thinking longer term, at least if something happens in the market and there's a shift, you always need a place to stay. You need a roof over your head. Interest rates are still very low. So if you're thinking long term and you need a place to stay and you can lock in with a mortgage payment that works for you, I think it still is a good time to buy. The inverse reaction typically with a market that goes down is rates trend up. So if we do have a pullback in pricing, interest rates are going to be higher. And yes, of course, it's better to buy at a lower price and a higher rate and then maybe refinance down the road when prices go up. But again, if you're going to wait that out and try to time market, I don't think that that's wise advice. I think, obviously we could have a correction at some point, but we've been saying that for a long time. And so you just don't know when that's going to be. And if you continue to sit on the sidelines, you could be missing out on that equity gain, and you could be missing out on paying down that loan and having all the benefits of home ownership. So I encourage you to think longer term. Buy a place that you can grow into, that you can enjoy for a longer period of time. The shorter term stuff you might want to think about a little bit longer if you're only planning on being somewhere for a couple of years. As an investor, I would pull equity out. If you have equity while it's there in the market, I'm a big proponent of taking that equity and setting it aside in case there is a correction. Then you've got some dry powder to use. You've got some cash available to go out and make some more investments. So that's one of the things I would say to do. And it's going to get tougher and tougher to do that. They're already making some of the investor loans, second home purchases are becoming more expensive, and it's getting harder to get to that equity. So get it now while you can, and that way you have it set aside at a pretty good interest rate before interest rates continue to go up, and you have it set aside either to buy more now if you feel comfortable doing that, or just kind of see what the market does and have that available if the market does make a correction and there's some buying opportunities. Looking at everything in general, Portland specifically, obviously, being in this market, we just are so low on inventory. It is going to take a lot to offset that supply demand issue. Again, we've got so many things. We've got migration here, we got people moving in, we've got jobs being created, and we have just a very, very low supply, constraints on growth. And so that's going to continue to push pricing up. And again, whenever you're looking at a market, whether you're investing or, well, specifically if you're investing, but, because there's more to think about when you're investing, you're looking for returns and things like that. Obviously, you want to look at some things like this when you're buying your own home, but when you're investing, you can't just look at, you see in the news, the real estate market. Will the real estate market crash in 2022? What is going to happen to the real estate market? There is no the real estate market. It's not like the stock market. And even in the stock market, different stocks react differently. So unless you're talking about the Dow in general or something like that, I mean, you're talking about one stock could do really, really well one year and one stock could do terribly. It's very specific. So real estate is the same way. You can't say the real estate market because, although they say it all the time, that's what you're looking at in the news is national trends, but you have to look specifically at the markets that you're investing in so that you know what's going on there. You know what the trends are probably going to be for the future. And you can take a closer look at what's going on in that market because every market's going to react different. What's going on with jobs, what's going on with net migration, what are supply levels looking like, how easy is it to increase that supply level. All of those things are going to have a factor in what that market's going to do, especially if there is a correction in the market. The markets that are more stable in all those areas and maybe more constrained on supply are going to fare better than those that have a little bit higher supply and maybe not as strong of job markets and all of those things. So always be looking at that stuff especially when you're investing. The other thing I would say as an investor is make sure you are looking at the fundamentals of the properties that you're buying. Don't speculate. Don't be putting these super aggressive numbers in there for rent growth and price appreciation and that sort of thing. If the deal only works because of some pie in the sky numbers or using what's happened over the last 2 years and anticipating that happening over the next 2 years, in my opinion, that's very speculative and you're really relying on that market appreciation, that market continuing to trend up. And if it can't stand on its own without that happening, then it's very risky in my opinion. Hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Thanks for watching. I will continue to put up some additional updates as I'm paying attention to the news and we're looking at what's going on in the world and the market, and pay attention for my next market update here probably in a week or maybe two, since I got this one out so late. Thanks again for watching. Make it a great day.